Hello everyone and welcome, it's Shanna here. Now I'm going to be using this pink and mane pad. I need to make 2 masculine thank you cards, and I knew that this pack had some masculine colors in here that kind of reminded me of like men's ties and old style men's shirts and stuff. So I thought I'd bring them in and I would create my cards with these pattern papers here. And I also like the fact that they were patriotic looking. And so I've just picked out 3 pattern papers, and I've got 2 cardstocks, a blue and a red, and I'm just going to make a couple cards, and we'll just see where this goes. Now, I made all of the mistakes here. When I grabbed my Cricut cutter, it fell apart, and so I had to put it back together. And on the back, you've got a scoring blade. That's why it pops apart, so you can easily cut or score with this. Now, I'm just going to take this pattern paper, or this cardstock, and cut it down and make a panel for my card base. And I think I did 4 by 5 1/4. And then I'm going to bring in this old CZ Thanks die from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm just going to cut a piece off big enough to die cut out a portion of that sentiment. And we'll lay that aside. And I'm going to look at my paper. And from here, I'm just kind of winging it. And I'm going to just cut this down to... Actually, that other one was 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and this is going to be 4 by 5 1/4 because I'm going to layer it up. And I'm just going to lay my pieces aside there, and I've got the beginning of a card base. And I'm going to bring in some of that red cardstock as well, and I'm going to do the same thing, cut this down into 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panels, and then I'm going to use one of them to trim down for my sentiment. And I'm going to trim it down just like I trimmed the other one down, so I have a little strip for my sentiment. I'm going to use the shadow on the red and the sentiment on the blue. And I'm just going to bring in my Spellbinders die cutting machine and just lay them down on my magic mat and get these things die cut out. Now, my daughter needed 2 Mel thank you cards. I don't know if I said that already. And had asked me to make them, so I thought I would get them made this evening because she's going to come visit this week, and I thought I'd have them ready for her. So I'm just going to die cut these out. And you'll see this, I'm poking it out of a larger sheet than what I used. The first one, I didn't get pressed well enough, and I went to pull it out and I tore it. So I just took the other piece of paper and I die cut it out again, and that was one of my first mistakes. So it just seemed like everything I did tonight was kind of a little off-kilter. Anyway, so I'm going to bring in these Love from Lizzie's that I'm going to use. I won't use them on this card. I'll actually use them on the next card. And I'm going to go ahead and score 2 A2 size panels and get them ready because I know I'm going to make 2 cards. And we'll lay them aside and we'll get to working on this. And then I'll tell you what my next mistake was. So I'm just using my bone folder to get a good press on them. That little plastic thing that comes with the Score Buddy honestly does not give the fold that I like for it so that I can work with it and it'll lay flat. So I bring in my bone folder and press it with that. Now I'm laying this blue cardstock down on my card base and just getting it all lined up. And I've got a little bit of an edge on there, so I'm taking it to my guillotine, cutting it off, and I'm just going to get this plaid paper from Pink and Mane laid down on there. I'm just checking to make sure it was square because I thought it looked funny. And I was noting that I could use either side and it would turn out very nice. And so I'm going to lay this down. And I originally thought I would just use this panel on the sentiment and just keep it really basic. And then I decided to bring in another piece of the pattern paper. Now I'm taking this Spellbinders 2-in-1 tool and I'm trying to get the little paper hairs that are on there because the first time it didn't cut out well, so I made multiple passes the second time. And when you make multiple passes, you get little hairs from your paper on your die cut. And I'm just going to bring in this little glue bottle here with a fine tip so that I can just get in there and lay my glue down carefully. And I'm just trying to get all the areas covered. And it's a real fine sentiment, so I have to kind of work with it to get everything in place and then kind of clean up the glue with my fingers there. But then it turns out nice. And I decided to use that 2-in-1 tool to just get the rest of the hairs off of there because it was kind of hairy from the die cutting. And then I decided I was going to bring in the flip side of this that I cut off of it and lay it down on there just to have some interest. And so I cut it down and I get it to size, and then I decide I'm going to layer it with some red. So then I take the red and cut it down, and then I need to cut the plaid down again so that I can have that nice little edge on it. And I'll trim it up, and then I'll get it laid down on there. I noticed that the paper had the kind of the glue where it attached to the paper pack, and I wanted to trim it off, so that's what I did as well. And I'm just going to lay this down and layer it up. Now this is similar to one of the sketches on KCC, but not exactly. I should say KCC 13 because we're getting ready to roll out 14, but anyway, but it's not exactly, but it's kind of the same concept as one of them. So I'll just take my sentiment that says thanks, and I'm looking because I thought there was a little bit of glue on there or something, and I'm just going to lay that thanks right down there on there, and it's going to be really a simple card, but these are masculine cards, and I don't think we need any bells and whistles on them. My daughter just wanted 2 masculine thank you cards, and so I tried to keep it that way. And I did go with a patriotic because I thought these men would like that as well. So I've got the red, white, and blue. Now I realized that I glued it down on my panel backwards, so I took it to my guillotine. That was my next mistake. And I cut it off, and then I had to lay it down on another card base. And so my card base was off again, so I had to trim it down. And then I decided I'm going to go ahead and make my second one. And so I'm looking at it, trying to decide which color I'm going to go with. And I'm still kind of debating on what I want to do. And so I bring my red in, and I'm just going to decide which paper I'm going to go with. And so I'm going to bring my red panel in, and I'm still thinking, how do I want to do this? So I'll just bring in my paper trimmer and cut it down again to A2 size. And we'll use that. And I'm going to bring in my score buddy and make another card base because I wasted that one by gluing it on there wrong. And so I'm getting another card base ready. And I'm going to get this red paper. And I picked this up at Michael's. It's Recollections, but I like the color red. Sometimes it's hard to find a red color, but I like this one, so I picked up this pack, and I'm glad that I got it because I've got some good red now. And I've decided that I want to use the Spellbinders embossing folder, and I can't find it, so I'm looking for it. There it is. And I'm just going to open it up, and this will be the first time I've used this Spellbinders embossing folder, and I think it'll look really nice with this card. So I'm going to layer my paper in there, go to my die cutting machine, cut it out, or emboss it, and bring it back, and we'll get it laid down on our panel. So there we have it, and it's got great dimension. In fact, I'm looking at it, and then I flip it over and look at the other side, and it's very pretty as well, but I decided to go with the embossed side and just get it laid down on there. So I'll bring in my glue and just glue it down. I'm trying to hit areas of the embossed panel that are raised so that I can get my glue to stick, and we'll get it laid down on there. And this card base is off again too, so I'll have to cut it up as well and get it ready. And then I'm going to cut this pattern paper down. And I've decided to use a sketch from Kinder's Card Challenge for this design, and this is for 13. And I'm just going to cut it according to the sketch. So I've got my sketch laying aside, and I'm looking at my measurements, and I'm just cutting it out accordingly. Now this is a single, I'm doing a single card with the sketch, which you can do. And I'm just going to use all of this pattern paper, and I'll just cut them all according to the sketch, and then I'll flip it over so that I'll have a couple of different patterns there. And then I realized the one that I had cut off will work for the other one if I just trim it down a little bit. And so I'm just arranging it how I want it. I'm going to trim it down, and it will work for the third piece of pattern paper that I needed for the card. Now I decided to lay those two together so they would be cut exactly the same in length so that they'll line up well. So I did that, and I'll get my paper trimmer out of the way, and then we'll begin assembling this card. Now I've decided I need that back layer panel to lay those three pieces of pattern paper on, and I thought I wanted to use the blue, and then I decided that perhaps white would work better. So I grabbed a strip of white paper that I messed up when I was making panels, and I thought I'll just cut this down, and this will be the backer for the pattern paper, and I can just lay it on there, and it will just kind of bring some lighter, white into the card. And I like how that looks, so I'm just going to get it glued down, and we'll use those as our pattern paper sheets on the card. Now this particular sketch for Kinder's Card Challenge actually has a circle that lays on it, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use another thanks sentiment and get it laid on there, and this will finish up the 2 cards that I need for my daughter that say thank you, masculine thank you cards. So I'm going to get it laid down on there, and then I'll take my 3rd piece and I'll get it glued up, and I'll just try to line it up with a 2nd piece, and we'll have a nice little focal area for our card. So I'm just going to get it laid down on my red panel, and I'm just kind of cleaning up any glue that seeped out of there. So I'll bring in my little glue bottle there and get some glue laid down on there and lay it on my panel. Try and get it lined up. And then I'm just going to bring in, I decided this is where I'll use the, actually I'm trying to figure out what color I want to do my thanks shadow in. And so I'm got the blue, and it's not the right blue. I need a darker blue. And so I bring in the white and then the red, and I decide I'm going to do the red as the shadow and the white as the sentiment. So I'm just going to pull this white out, and hopefully it die cut out well, which it did. Had to pull on it a little bit, but I got it out. And I'm just trying to poke it out of the die. And voila, we have it. Okay, so I got that one to work out all right. And then I'm kind of getting the hairs off of there. I did run it through multiple passes because I wanted to make sure it did cut out well. And I'm just pulling the hairs off again. And then I've got the red shadow portion of it. And I'm just going to glue this up and lay it down just like I did the other. I just decided to use the same thanks on both cards. I know I probably have other ones, but for simplicity's sake and keeping the craft room a little bit cleaner, I just went with what I already had laying out, so I didn't have multiple things I had to put away. And so we'll get this one laid down on there. And clean it up. Get all the little hairs off. And I'm still trying to get them cleaned up. And then I lay it on there, and I think, I don't know, maybe I want to, oh, I'm still cleaning hairs up. And there's a little bit of glue too, and I'm using the pick tool to just clean up the glue and everything. Then I lay it down on there, and I think, do I want to cover up the white line there, or what do I want to do? And then I think, this is where I'll bring in the Love from Lizzie strips. And so I'll just grab one strip of the red, and I'll just lay it there at that crossbar, and then on the vertical as well. So I'm just going to pull one of the thicker ones off and just kind of line it up there on the white. And I'm trying to get it lined up just so. And I'll snip that off, and then I'll line it up in the middle there. And then we'll snip that off. And then I'll press down, get it good and pressed down. And then we'll just lay our sentiment on there. And then that'll finish up this card. And I'll have 2 thank you cards for my daughter so that she can use them. Very simple cards, but I'm using what I've got. In fact, I'm using a mixture of old and new stuff. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.